From the day we arrive on this planet and blinking step into the sun, there's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done. Some say eat or be eaten. Some say live and let live, but all are agreed as we join the stampede. You should never take more than you give in the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. It's the leap of faith. It's the bend of hope till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of life. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us sail to the stars. Some of us sail through our troubles, and some have to live with the scars. There's far too much to take in here, more to find than can ever be found. But the sun rolling high through the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless round in the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. It's the leap of faith. It's the bend of hope till we find our way on the path unwinding in the circle of life. It's the wheel of fortune. It's the leap of faith. It's the bend of hope till we find our way on the path unwinding in the circle of
So in the Master Key system, which we are studying, there's a group of us that are studying. This was interesting because he talked about septimal law. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And it's the law of sevens. And I thought that that was what I was going to talk about today. And when I started to gather the information, it sounded more like a lesson than like a spiritual awakening or anything. And I wanted to start with what that actually means because I found it really interesting. There is a law of seven in the universe. We have 7 days of the week. We have 7 chakra systems. There are 7 places on the planet Earth that they consider much like chakra systems, not counting the 7 wonders of the world. They had at one time, and then I think this is what pulled me off of, I'm not going to talk about that. They had divided as we aged up in ages of 7. 0 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. And I looked at that and put what had happened during my life during those segments, which I found very interesting. And they said that the reason they did that was because the cells in our body replace each other every 7 years. Do not type anything in. I'm going to correct that right now. Turns out that's not true, that our body actually replaces cells much quicker than that. However, remember, this was written in the early 1900s. So then that's what they thought. And it's still fascinating to me. And I want to talk about gaining spiritual understanding. What is it we can do to gain spiritual understanding? What's ours to do as humans on this planet where we can maybe be a little bit more spiritual with our fellow people on this planet? And one of the things is to embrace fear, which I found really interesting because I know that Susan didn't see the notes to my talk, and so I love this one mind that we always talk about, because as she's praying, part of her prayer was about fear, about knowing that when you get into fear, recognizing and hearing that voice of the divine, right? And so to embrace fear, what does that mean? How many of you, let's just say the last 6 months, for whatever reason, have experienced a little bit of fear in your life? Yeah? Right. And yet, really, are we not all safe? Right? There are different rules now on how we are with people. I get that. But nothing really major has happened to us. And we tend to take on the fear of other people. I am reading a book. I highly recommend it. I don't know why I highly recommend it. I'm not even through the first chapter yet, except that the title of the book is called Bliss Brain. And Kim So-You-Know, he talks about tapping. Really, really into, I think he's got EFT University is what he's famous for. But the amazing part of his story was he awakens, actually his wife woke him up, living in the Santa Cruz Mountains. His wife wakes him up at 12:30 in the morning and said, what the hell's going on? And he kind of groggily comes awake and he's thinking, 12:30 in the morning? How would I know what's going on? Looks out their bedroom window and sees a wall of fire coming towards them. And he knows they have minutes to get out of their house. So he's running by his garage. He knows he's got 2 Siamese cats in there, and he doesn't have time to get them. Climbs into the car, drives out, and they get out to safety. What he realized with that experience, even though he'd been teaching EFT, even though he'd been talking about trauma, I can't remember how long that he did this, but every night he'd wake up at 12:30, and for 2 hours he would just sit there in total fear. And so that's how our brain works, right? We've got these fears that maybe, his fear was valid at the time, but present time, he was safe. And wonderful, amazing things happened to his life after the fire. The 2 sad things were everything that they owned. Everything that they owned was lost in the fire. All of the cars he'd collected, they didn't have time to get out any papers. Everything was destroyed, along with their 2 cats. And he said he still lives with that sadness, like, could I have stopped? But in his mind, he knows that could have made the difference between him and his wife getting out. And so to embrace our fear is to recognize that most of the time, like very close to 100% of the time, we're safe, right? And yet our mind builds up all of these little fears. I was in a class on Saturday. It was actually a class. It was about 2 hours long. And what we had to do was introduce ourselves on Zoom. And this is a group of people that I've never met before. And I had to introduce myself, and I was just like, and some of you might think, really, Gayle? I mean, you get up on stage, you talk to people all the time. There is a difference from talking to people that you know and saying something online to people that you've never met before. At least for me. Might not be true for you. Please don't take on my fear. I'm sure you've got enough of your own. However, and then when I got off, what did I do? Kim knows because I think I told her. Then I beat myself up. Oh, I could have done that, and Paul heard me. You know. But it's my brain doing that to me. And so a basic understanding of God is to know that God is in the presence of everything. And the other thing about your fear is let go of trying to think that you don't belong or that you need to behave a certain way to belong. Because here's the deal. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody. Some people are going to have an opinion that you're the next best thing to sliced bread. And other people are like, you're not even a loaf of bread in my life. It doesn't matter. Right? It really doesn't matter. What matters is, what do you think of yourself? Can you wake up in the morning and really think, wow, I'm going to do my best today. Yesterday might have been, I'm going to do better today. Tomorrow's not here yet. So focus on, unless you're visualizing something for your future that's happy, focus on here and now. This is where God lives, right here, right now, in this moment. So focus on that. The other things, gaining spiritual understanding, number 2 is meditate. That was one of the things in this book that he talked about, along with and if you don't know EFT, I'm sorry. It's an emotional freedom technique. And if you want more information and you're a member of this community or you're not, contact Kim Boyden. She's brilliant at it. She's been doing it for a long time. She's led classes here on it, and it works. However, he also talked about meditating, and what meditating allows us to do is create that calm space within. And you can do that individually. I have a program that I use. I meditate for 30 minutes. I would say every day, except then I wouldn't be in integrity. I do it almost every day. I do it 5 to 6 days a week. And meditate. There is brilliance in meditating. Why? Because your body calms down. There's brilliance in meditating because your mind calms down. And when your mind and your body get calm, guess who speaks to you? The divine. God speaks to you in ways that will amaze you. I promise you, the more calm your mind, the more you are open to receive divine inspiration. The third thing to do, this is big, it's forgiveness. It's forgiveness. You know, one of the practices that I was given, I think when I first came into a center like this, was, Gayle, every time somebody comes up in your mind that you can't forgive, for whatever reason, I want you to pick up a rock, not a pebble. I want you to pick up a rock, and I want you to put it in your pocket, and I want you to carry it around with you until you can forgive that person and let them go. Now, I argued this. There were lots of reasons I couldn't, and not about them. Forgiveness isn't about the other person. Forgiveness is about your peace of mind. Forgiveness is about you letting go and moving on. And so do you forgive the act? No. You forgive the person. Because even in my situation, what I know to be true, that is, if my ex-husband had been raised differently, he would have been a different person. And so I don't give him a pass on what he did. However, he is still God in form. And so eventually I was able to take that rock out of my pocket. I will tell you, when I first started this practice, my pockets were bulging and it was heavy. And that was the point. That was the point, is to really feel energetically on my body what it's like to carry people around with me that probably have moved on and are not giving me a second thought. How can I release that? And you do that through forgiveness. The fourth step, be really honest with yourself. This sometimes is the hardest thing to do because you have to balance being honest with yourself with being overcritical about yourself, right? Be honest with yourself. If there is forgiveness that you need to express to another person, do that. Say you're sorry. If there is something that you want to do in your life and you're not doing it, be honest with yourself. What does it take? And circle back around to maybe fear and embracing your fear. How many of you know for a fact that you have something you want to give the world and the only person stopping you from doing it is you? Yeah. And so we could circle right back up to lesson number 1. That is fear. That is fear. And so be honest with yourself, because the truth of the matter is, no matter what it is, the divine gave you that capability to do that. You know, there's that saying, if God brought you to it, God will see you through it. And so when you're holding back out of fear, it's not you necessarily that's suffering. It's us, because we don't get to see your brilliance. And so to really decide, I'm going to take that step out there. I'm going to, I might make a fool of myself. For goodness sakes, folk, I sang with Paul on Sunday. If you missed that, don't go back and look. No. I was petrified. And I did it anyway. Do I want to be a singer? No. But I walked through some fear, and if I can walk through that fear, trust me, if I can walk through that fear, I can walk through almost anything. And so just to allow yourself, it's fear. It's not going to kill you. It's, all it's doing is preventing you from being the best you've come here to be. I think I'm on 5, right? Yeah. Spend time in nature. Why? Because it's the biggest teacher of all. I think I saw this post on Facebook and Paul said, I bet that's not real. And I said, I think it is. That eagles fly and crows will come in and land on an eagle's back and pick at them. Does it bother the eagle? He doesn't try to shake the crow off. He doesn't, he just flies higher. Because an eagle can still get breath, or whatever birds do. An eagle can still breathe and live at a much higher altitude than a crow. And so an eagle will get to a height and the crow will just fall off, because it realizes I either have to fall off or I'm not going to survive. Think about that. Think about what that teaches us in nature about how we carry things around or we respond. How many of us respond to people, places, and things around us when all we would really need to do is fly a little higher. And what that means to me is you rise up. You be the conscious person in the relationship. You do that, what Michelle Obama said. They go high or they go low, you go higher. And it doesn't matter in that aspect. I'm not talking politics. In your life, when people come at you and it's unkind, you could immediately go back and say something. What you should do is just go higher. If you can't say something nice back to them, zip it and smile. They're either going to think that you're crazy, and there's nothing bad about that, or they're going to realize all of that stuff that they just tried to project onto you stays with them. Every ounce of it stays with them because they're trying to give you and project on you their unhappiness, right? And if you don't say yes by responding, then the gift they've just tried to give you hasn't gone anywhere. And so go high. That's what that means. I think it was a brilliant statement, and I like to own it, not from any standard except a spiritual one, what that means for us as spiritual beings, that we should go high. Practice self-care. How many of you, let me see, what do I think I'm going to get the most hands with? How many of you don't practice self-care? Yeah. And most of the people that raise their hand are normally people that are practitioners, ministers, nurses, firefighters, doctors, not lawyers necessarily, people that are giving all the time. The problem with people that give all the time is normally they're giving so much because they have difficulty receiving. There is a reason on an airplane that they tell you to put your mask on first, even before your child. The reason is you're not good to anybody if you can't breathe. So the truth is, for especially people in service, however, the truth for all of us to remember is we're not good to anybody if we can't breathe. And so you need to have spiritual practices. You need to do self-care, whatever that looks like to you. Is that a walk in nature? Is it going out to lunch or dinner with girlfriends and just belly laughing about life? Is it shopping with your husband? Whatever it is, self-care is about right here, right now, I'm taking care of me, right? That's the most important thing. Take care of me. And then this one is interesting because we all hold on to our beliefs so tightly, right? Every single one of us, I think, holds on to our beliefs so tightly. And when people disagree with us, especially if it's a belief that is so close to our heart, if somebody disagrees with us, we can get angry, we can get defensive, we want to argue with them why their belief isn't as good as my belief. Our beliefs are just that. There is an O-U-R in front of beliefs. They're yours. They aren't mine. And our beliefs are based on our experience. I loved it when I read a dream book. And, they always assign meanings to things that happen in a dream. Well, if you dream this, then this is what it means to you. And if you dream about water, it means flow. And the guy that wrote the book said, really? What about somebody that almost drowned when they were 2? Do you think their dreaming about water means that they're in the flow? Not necessarily. Our beliefs are our beliefs. They aren't truth. They can be changed. You can learn something different, something new. You can listen to somebody and go, wow, I hadn't really thought about that situation in that way. Our beliefs, I don't believe a lot of what my parents believed raising me. I'm different than they were. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Right? I am different than they were. Their life was different than their parents. And yet sometimes the beliefs are just handed down, and none of us questions them. We act like this is rule, this is law. and it doesn't have to be. I had no idea about religious science and the beliefs that they would open up in me about myself, about life, and about God. I had no idea 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I had no idea that I would be a minister, let alone clean and sober. So we don't know how we're going to shift and change. And so maybe loosen your grip on your beliefs. Don't just automatically discount somebody because they don't agree like you. They don't believe what you believe. They don't love the way you love. Allow yourself to be more open. And so in gaining spiritual understanding, I'm going to tell you what they are again, in case you're writing these down. Embrace fear. Meditate. Practice forgiveness of your errors. Be honest with yourself. Spend time in nature. Practice self-care. And take a close look at your beliefs. So I invite you to do that this week. And just see if maybe your energy doesn't shift a little bit. And that you become more fully who you're supposed to be. And answer that call of why you're here. So let's pray. And so I breathe in to that essence. I breathe in knowing that that breath I breathe is the breath of God. For it truly is over us, around us, through us, as us. And if that is the truth, and it is for me, then it's in the air particles all around me. It embraces me and loves me unconditionally. It is in and through and as all things everywhere. It is that good that I choose to call God. It can be called anything. However, one of my beliefs is the more we recognize that there is something bigger, a higher energy, whatever, a spirit, whatever you want to call it. Once we recognize that, the connection to it, to ourselves, and to each other, we begin to create better communities, better families, better countries, a better sense of self. And so I know that love that is God, is me, is all people everywhere, for we really are one with it. And so knowing that I am the I am. I speak now and know that as I move through this day, this week, I allow myself to gain a better understanding of my spirituality. I give myself time to sit with what is it within me that I need to forgive. What is it in that person that I need to forgive? What is it in that person that I may need to ask forgiveness from? I know that this power, this presence is always with us, always available, always whispering in our ear, I am here. I am here. I am here. There is no mistaking it. There is no denying it. We stand in that glory that is God, individually and collectively. Regardless of how we believe of it, what religion we practice, it doesn't matter. It's to recognize the one. To recognize that one and to know that truth. It is ever available and always present. When we hit rock bottom and when we rise to the top, it never falters. It's always there. And so for that, I give great, great thanks for the knowingness, the connection, and the freedom to recognize God is my source, my supply, and my sustenance. So in that, I say thank you, God, as I turn all of these words over, knowing that as it is spoken, it is already done. In the mind of God, it was complete before I uttered a word. It is manifested in that mind. It has said yes. And so this week, it's going to be rocking. I let go, I let God, and together we say, and so it is. Namaste. Thank you. Please welcome back Christine S. Young.
Every evening sky, an invitation to trace the pattern of stars. And early in July, a celebration for freedom that is ours. And I notice you in children's games, in those who watch them from the shade. Every drop of sun is full of fun and wonder. You are summer. And even when the trees have just surrendered to the harvest time, forfeiting their leaves in late September, sending us inside, still I notice you when change begins, and I am braced for colder winds. I will offer thanks for what has been and what's to come. You are autumn. And everything in time and under heaven finally falls asleep, wrapped in blankets white, all creation shivers underneath, and still I notice you when branches crack, and in my breath on frosted glass whisper